Every morning at exactly 7:10 a.m., the man sat on the same bench in Greenwich Park. The bench was old, its paint chipped and faded, placed beneath a large oak tree whose branches spread wide like protective arms. Joggers passed by without looking. Parents walking their children subtly changed direction. Dog owners tightened their leashes. The man noticed everything. He was in his early 40s, wore simple clothes, a brown jacket, dark trousers, clean but old shoes. His beard was neatly trimmed, his posture straight, his eyes calm but watchful. He never spoke unless spoken to. He never smiled unless someone smiled first, and that made people uncomfortable. "Why does he sit there every day?" one woman whispered to her husband as they walked past. "Probably nothing good," the husband muttered. The park had unspoken rules. Families occupied the grassy areas. Elderly couples walked the paved paths. Teenagers gathered near the fountain, and that bench somehow felt claimed by a man no one trusted. Children noticed first. "Mama, why does that uncle stare so much?" a little boy asked. "He's not staring," his mother said quickly, pulling the child closer. "Just don't go near him." The man heard it. He always did. He lowered his gaze to the pigeons, pecking crumbs near his feet, and exhaled slowly. This routine had been his life for nearly a year. At 7:30, the same jogger with headphones passed by. At 7:45, the old man with a cane waved at everyone except him. At 8 o'clock, the security guard completed his first round, eyes lingering just a second longer on the bench. The guard's name was Eric, new to the job, careful, curious. "You here early again," Eric said one morning, stopping a few feet away. The man nodded. "Every day." Eric forced a smile. "You live nearby?" "Yes." A pause stretched between them. "You waiting for someone?" Eric asked. "No." Eric nodded, pretending that answered something, then walked away, but his eyes kept drifting back. Suspicion grew quietly in places like this. No crime, no reason, just instinct mixed with fear. That morning felt different. The park was busier than usual. A school picnic had brought laughter and noise. Children ran freely, bright backpacks scattered on the grass. Teachers chatted near the benches. Parents relaxed, phones in hand. The man watched it all, his eyes sharper now, more alert. Then he noticed her, a little girl, maybe 6 years old, stood alone near the fountain, pink jacket, small braids. She clutched a juice box and looked around, confusion spreading across her face. The man's body stiffened. He scanned the area. No adult nearby seemed to be watching her. The teachers were distracted. Parents were absorbed in conversation. The girl's eyes filled with tears. "Mom?" she called softly. No answer. The man stood up. Instantly, two parents noticed. "Hey," a woman said, her voice tense. The man didn't look at her. He walked slowly, deliberately, stopping several feet away from the girl. "You lost?" he asked gently. The girl nodded, lips trembling. "My class was here," she said. "And then I couldn't find them." The man glanced around again. His jaw tightened. "Okay," he said softly. "We'll find them." Before he could move, a sharp voice cut through the air. "Excuse me, what are you doing?" A father stormed toward them, anger written across his face. Others followed. "Step away from the child," the man ordered. The little girl shrank back, scared now of everyone. "I'm just helping," the man said calmly. "We don't know you," a woman snapped. "Why were you talking to her?" Eric, the security guard, rushed over. "What's going on?" He approached the lost child. The father said, "We want him questioned." The man raised his hand slightly. "She's lost." Eric looked at the girl. "Sweetie, where's your teacher?" She cried harder. The crowd grew thicker. Phones came out. Whispers spread. "I told you he was suspicious. He sits here every day. This is why you can't trust people." The man felt it, that familiar tightening in his chest, the urge to explain himself, the exhaustion of always having to. But then he noticed something else. The girl's shoe, one lace, was untied. And near the edge of the park, beyond the trees, he saw movements, someone stepping back, quickly, too quickly. His instincts screamed. "She didn't wander off," he said suddenly. Everyone looked at him. "What?" Eric asked. "She was taken," the man said firmly, and then let go. That's a serious accusation, the father snapped. The man locked eyes with Eric. Check the cameras near the west gate. Now, Eric hesitated. How do you... Please, the man said. Now. Something in his voice made Eric move. As the guard spoke urgently into his radio, the man knelt in front of the girl. Did someone grab your hand? He asked gently. She nodded. Did they wear dark clothes? Another nod. The park erupted into chaos. Teachers screamed names. Parents ran in all directions. Police were called. Eric returned, pale. Camera footage shows a man leading her toward the west exit. He let go when people started noticing. The father who had shouted earlier went silent. Which way did he go? The man asked. Eric pointed. The man didn't wait. He ran. Not recklessly, strategically. He scanned footprints, broken twigs, disturbed gravel. His breathing was controlled, his movements precise. Years of training woke up inside him. Behind a row of bushes, he found a dropped glove. He followed. 10 minutes later, sirens wailed. Police found the suspect hiding near a maintenance shed, and the man from the bench stood quietly nearby, hands in his pockets, eyes distant. When the girl was reunited with her mother, tears and relief filled the air. Cameras turned. Officers asked questions. One of them approached the man. Sir, what's your name? He hesitated. Daniel. Last name? Does it matter? The officer studied him. We'd like to thank you. Eric stepped forward. He knew what to do before any of us. The father swallowed hard. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I judged you. Others avoided his eyes. Later, as the park emptied and calm returned, Daniel sat back on his bench. Eric joined him. You were police, Eric said. Detective, Daniel corrected softly. Before I lost my son, Eric didn't ask more. Families walked past again. This time, no one pulled their children away. Some even nodded. Daniel watched the pigeons return. The bench hadn't changed. But people had. Daniel stayed on the bench longer than usual that day. The puck slowly returned to its normal rhythm. Joggers resumed their routes. A couple sat near the fountain, laughing quietly. The echo of sirens faded into memory, replaced by birdsong and distant traffic. Yet something had shifted. People looked at Daniel differently now. A woman pushing a stroller slowed as she passed him. She hesitated, then offered a small smile. Daniel nodded back, unsure how to receive it. Nearby, a man walking his dog raised his hand in greeting. The dog wagged its tail, pulling closer to the bench. Daniel felt an unfamiliar tightness in his chest. Recognition had always come late in his life, usually after damage had already been done. Eric returned after speaking with the police. He sat beside Daniel, resting his elbows on his knees. They're calling you a hero, Eric said quietly. Daniel stared ahead. They don't know me. They know what you did. That's not the same thing. Eric glanced at him. Why do you keep coming here? Daniel took a long moment before answering. Because this is where my son liked to feed the birds. Eric swallowed. I didn't know. Most people don't. A group of children ran past, laughing. Daniel watched them, closely, not with suspicion, but with something closer to longing. After Eric left, Daniel remained seated as shadows stretched across the grass. He thought about leaving, but something kept him there. Maybe habit, maybe hope. The small voice interrupted his thoughts. Excuse me, sir. Daniel turned. It was the girl from earlier. She stood with her mother now, holding her hand tightly. Her eyes were curious rather than afraid. Yes, Daniel said gently. She stepped forward. Thank you for finding me. Daniel felt his throat tighten. You're welcome. Her mother spoke next, voice trembling slightly. I owe you an apology. We all do. I judged you without knowing anything about you. Daniel shook his head. You were scared? That's human. She nodded, tears forming. Still, thank you. They walked away, and Daniel exhaled deeply. The next morning, Daniel arrived at the park at the same time, same bench, same oak tree, but the park was not the same. An elderly man approached first. Mind if I sit? He asked. Daniel shifted slightly. Not at all. They sat in silence for a few minutes. Then the man spoke. I saw what happened yesterday. Daniel nodded. You remind me of my brother, the man said. Quiet, observant. People misunderstood him too. Daniel listened. Soon after, a jogger slowed near the bench. "Good morning," she said, breathless. "Morning," Daniel replied. By the time 8 a.m. arrived, 3 people were seated nearby, chatting softly. No one avoided the bench anymore. But with acceptance came something else, expectation. People began watching Daniel more closely. Some smiled too eagerly. Others whispered with admiration. A few asked questions. "Were you really a detective? Why did you quit? Do you work with the police now?" Daniel answered politely but briefly. He wasn't comfortable being seen as something larger than he was. Hero worship felt just as limiting as suspicion. One afternoon, Eric returned with coffee. "They want to interview you," he said. "Local news," Daniel sighed. "No, they want your story." "My story isn't the interesting part," Daniel replied. "The child is safe. That's enough." But the story spread anyway. Parents pointed him out. Teenagers whispered. Someone took a photo and posted it online. The comments were divided. Some praised him. Some doubted him. Some questioned his past. Daniel read none of it. A week later, something unexpected happened. A young boy sat beside him on the bench, swinging his legs nervously. "My dad says you're brave," the boy said. Daniel smiled faintly. "Your dad sounds smart." The boy hesitated. "Can I ask you something, sure? Are you dangerous?" The question landed softly but deeply. Daniel considered his answer carefully. "I can be," he said honestly, "but I choose not to be." The boy nodded as if that made perfect sense, then ran off to join his friends. That night, Daniel dreamed of his son for the first time in months. Not the hospital room, not the loss, but the park, the pigeons, the laughter. When he woke up, his pillow was damp with tears. Days passed. Then one morning, Daniel noticed a man sitting on the far bench, unkempt, nervous, eyes darting around. People avoided him instinctively. Daniel recognized the look. He stood up, walked over, and sat beside the man. The man stiffened. "You don't have to, it's fine," Daniel said. They sat together in silence. Across the park, a mother watched uncertainly. A security guard slowed his steps. Daniel didn't look back. He knew what it felt like to be alone in a crowded place. As the sun climbed higher, Daniel felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Not redemption, not forgiveness, but balance. The park bench had never been his punishment. It had been his waiting place. And finally, the world had caught up. The following week, Daniel noticed small changes that most people would have missed. The park felt less divided. Parents no longer grouped themselves tightly away from strangers. Children played closer to the benches. Conversations overlapped instead of staying isolated in neat circles. Daniel still arrived at 7:10 a.m., still sat on the same bench. But now, the bench was no longer just his. One morning, Eric joined him earlier than usual. He looked tired. "Rough night?" Daniel asked. Eric nodded. "Domestic dispute near the east side reminded me how fast things can go wrong." Daniel understood. They always do. Eric was quiet for a moment. "You ever miss it? The job?" Daniel thought carefully. "I miss knowing I could stop things before they broke." Eric looked at him. "You still do, just differently," but stayed with Daniel. Later that day, a woman approached him hesitantly. She was young, nervous, holding a folded paper in her hand. "My son wrote this," she said. "About you." Daniel unfolded the page. It was a drawing, crude. Lines, bright colors, a man on a bench, a child smiling. Above them, written in uneven letters, "The man who helps people even when they are mean." Daniel swallowed. "Thank you," he said softly. As she walked away, Daniel realized something uncomfortable, but true. People hadn't changed because he proved himself. They had changed because fear had been replaced with a story they could understand. That knowledge didn't make him bitter. It made him careful. One afternoon, rain fell suddenly, scattering everyone. Daniel remained on the bench, letting the drops soak into his jacket. A man hesitated nearby, clearly deciding whether to sit under the tree. "There's space," Daniel said. The man smiled awkwardly and sat. "Funny," he said. "A month ago, I wouldn't have." Daniel nodded. "I know." The rain slowed. Sunlight returned in thin lines through the leaves. When the park emptied again, Daniel stood, stretched his back, and looked around. The bench was still just wood and metal, but it had become something else, a place where people paused, where assumptions softened, where someone quiet could still matter. Daniel walked away slowly, knowing he would return tomorrow. Not because he needed the bench anymore, but because someone else might.